Hello and welcome back. In this video, we are going to learn how to find the area of squares, rectangles, and parallelograms. Let's just jump right in. For this first example, they ask us to find the area of a square. There are some unique characteristics of squares that we should know. First, with squares, all four sides have to be congruent or equal. So what that means is given the top is 3 inches long, the right side is 3 inches long, the bottom and the left side are all 3 inches long. And this is going to come in handy when we're trying to find the area of a square. The formula is going to be area is equal to your base multiplied by your height. In this case, we have the base down here and the height on the left or right. And all that really matters is that the base is perpendicular to the height to find your area. We know this to be true because we are looking for basically the orange space here. And if we break this up into sections, given we've got 1, 2, 3 sections on each side, we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little squares. And if we plug this into our formula, we have area equals our base of 3 inches times our height of 3 inches, and 3 times 3 is 9 inches. So you can see here that our formula matches what we're actually seeing in the shape itself. Now let's have a quick talk about units. You may have noticed that I wrote inches. Well, inches is not actually correct because we have 3 inches times 3 inches again. So we will also have to square our units. So our final answer is 9 square inches, or 9 inches squared. To find the area of a rectangle, you're going to use the same formula. Area is equal to base times height. But in this case, the base and the height are different because rectangles share opposite but congruent sides. So in this case, the left and right side are 2 inches long, and the top and bottom are 7 inches long. Now let's plug it straight into our formula. We can circle these with colors to keep track of them. Now we have area is equal to our base of 7 inches times our height of 2 inches. 7 times 2 gives us 14, and inches gives us inches squared. And that's our final answer. And we'll draw a grid on the rectangle to prove it. Now, I'm not the best artist, but if you were to count left to right, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections, which matches the number 7, and then 2 sections tall. So 1 through 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, of course, that matches, and we know our math is correct. For these shapes, it should be no surprise that we are also going to use the formula area is equal to base times height. Now, when you're talking about parallelograms, the idea of a base and a height can get a little confusing. You may think that this side over here is your height, but it's not. In the very first step, I talked about how the height is always perpendicular to the base. So I want to draw your attention to the middle here. You'll notice that the 3 centimeters has the little perpendicular symbol, and it is perpendicular to the base of 5 centimeters. So our height here is actually 3, and our base is going to be 5. And we know this because parallelograms, much like rectangles, are congruent on opposite sides. So we can bring the 5 centimeters down to the bottom if that makes more sense for you. Now let's simplify. We have area is equal to 5 centimeters times 3 centimeters. 5 times 3 gives us 15, and squared centimeters. And that's your final answer. Now you may be wondering, how does the same formula work for a different shape? Well, let me prove it to you. I have drawn a yellow triangle in the left corner of the parallelogram. That triangle fits perfectly into the space of that corner. If I were to take that triangle and move it over here to the right-hand side and get rid of the left-hand side where the triangle once was, like so, you will now notice that we have a perfect rectangle right here, outlined in yellow. That rectangle has a base of 5 and a height of 3, which is exactly the same as the previous example, which is why this formula works for parallelograms and rectangles. Now you try some examples. Go ahead and pause this video and try finding the area of the 3 shapes on the screen. You have a square, a rectangle, and a parallelogram. Okay, for the solutions, we will start with the square, which we will call part A in yellow. For this part, we remember that a square, like all of the other equations, is going to use base times height. But for squares, base and height are the same, so we have area equals 5 meters times 5 meters, which will give us 25 meters squared. Great. Let's move on to the rectangle, which we can call part B. For the rectangle, again, we use base times height to find the area. So we have area equals a base of 9 inches, knowing that those two sides are equal, times our perpendicular height of 4 inches. 9 times 4 gives us 36 inches squared. And the last one. For the parallelogram, we'll do that in red. We can label it part C. Now don't let this one confuse you. All we've done is drawn the height outside of the shape instead of inside the shape like you saw in previous examples. It doesn't matter where it's drawn as long as it has that little blue perpendicular corner piece. So using base times height, we find that our area is equal to a base of 3 centimeters times our height of 2 centimeters, giving us 6 centimeters squared. Awesome. Well, I hope you learned something from this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.